Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about how to auto text or SMS message people that visit your website without having filled out any kind of form on your website. You may say, well, how the hell could you do that? And the answer to that is there's some new technology out there that'll allow you to identify users on your website without them having to fill out the form. Something called fingerprinting technology. Basically, long story short, the user that visits your website and the IP address that they have is able to be cross-referenced with databases out there that'll tell you what the user's not only just phone number is so you can text them, but their email address so you can email them to if you wanted to as well. I talk about all the time on this channel how much remarketing works. Marketing to people who hit your site, because frankly, you spend a ton of money getting people to your site. That's how you get the other half of the value out of those visitors. Well, when you text and you email people, you're taking this to a whole nother level. And you may say, though, isn't this kind of creepy? How the hell do you even follow up with somebody through a text message that had visited your website and you've never spoken to them before? And the answer to that is it's easy. And I'm actually going to give you a case study, if you stay to the end of the video, where we actually did this. You can see exactly how you can do this for yourself as well. And it can all be done in an automated way. So users who hit your website can immediately get, or after a time delay of your choice, a message of your choice to get that person to respond to you. And then you have another hot lead to deal with that didn't necessarily fill out any kind of form on your website or contact you otherwise. Which, if you're wondering, like why somebody would respond to that if they never decided to respond to you in the first place, the answer is a lot of times people get to your website and they're not ready to buy. More than half of the people who get to your site are not ready to buy or contact somebody. Depending on the niche, it's more. If you're a plumber, it's going to be more so like 50%. If you are selling new homes, it can be 99% of people aren't ready to buy anything at the time of visiting your website. They use your website as an investigation or research tool. Texting them and being proactive about your reach out gets you tons more sales than you wouldn't have got otherwise. It's just like with live chat, when you can, through live chat software, message somebody and get them to reply to you versus just waiting for them to chat with you. You'll always get more sales when you do that. And I'll talk more about that today as well. Or if you had like a car lot, car salesmen don't just wait for you to come to them and say, hey, I'm ready to buy this car, because it doesn't make near as much money per lead you get. So I'm going to tell you about how to do this for yourself so you have the tools that you need to do this based upon how we've done it before. Before I get into the content though, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, a online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability up front. Basically in excess of the management fee, of which tells you something about the quality of the information you're also receiving on today's video. So with that said, getting into the content here. There are new, like I mentioned before, what they call web fingerprinting technologies out there that can identify a user just by going to a website and the information they give away as an individual, who that person is, without even telling you their name outright. And the way that this basically works, if you're a nerd like me, you always ask how things work, because I always want to know how things work, because it helps me identify if I want to do something or not, if I can understand why it's logical it will work, versus just believing anything I hear or see. So the way that this works, there's technology out there that'll literally allow you to identify a person who visits your website without them telling you who they are. They do this based upon looking at the user's IP address, which an IP address isn't unique to the user by itself. However, when you combine an IP address with a browser and a browser version and a device that the user's on, which gets broadcasted to the website when you have this technology set up and they collect it, the combination of all those data points does narrow it down to an individual user. Because people at a certain IP address, usually it's like a family or an office. And then on top of that, you can narrow it down from there. And that's just the basics. There's other ways that they identify the user. But as you know, if you knew enough about a person, their age, their gender, their income, their political party status. If you had enough data points on a person, you could eventually narrow it down to an individual in the US somewhere that's unique, and then you would know who it was. If you had access to other databases, you could do it. And that's how this web fingerprinting technology actually works. And there's actually software out there that will let you do this. So once you get it plugged in on your website, it'll in real time fingerprint that person and then tell you who it is. So you can immediately do and contact that user if you want by email, through phone, through texting them. V-Audience Labs is the one that I've used already before, or seen used, I should say. Our client was using it. But there's others out there that I can't speak of. I know there's others out there doing this, but a lot of them will not let you have access to the actual phone number or email. They'll have some interface where you can email, but you don't get access to the raw email, but you can email that person through their email system. And for the most part, that seems to be because, well, it makes logical sense that they're doing that so you are locked in on their system and that you can't just harvest a bunch of data and then one day eventually not be reliant on them. Of course, you'd have to be reliant on the provider giving you new data. That's what it seems like anyway. So, but what you certainly want is access to the raw data yourself so you can do your own outreach with whatever cadence that you want that's going to be most effective for your business, your niche that you're in. With that said, you can make, it's just literally like free extra money setting this up for your business, getting V-Audience Labs onto your website so you can start collecting information about the users who reach your site, specifically who haven't contacted you yet, haven't called, haven't filled out the form to reveal who they are, and then you can start contacting them right after. Ultimately, what I'll tell you up front that, and you may ask, can it really figure out every single person who reaches the site? And the answer to that is no, but it will find about 30% of those users, which is already pretty damn good. So if you can literally text 30% of the people who get to your site, when right now you may only get 7% of people to fill out the form on your site, that's a lot of extra opportunities you're talking about. And if you know how to do copywriting well and sending an SMS out to people and do it in the way that I talk about here on this video with an open-ended question, you can actually generate a lot of extra money from the same amount of traffic you have right now, just getting the system in place, and anybody can do it. I mentioned before, this is similar, by the way, to live chat programs. I've made other videos about live chat and how most people have no clue how to do live chat that actually works. The average person with live chat, they wait for somebody to message them on live chat and then they respond. Or they'll have a chat bot set up saying, hey, would you like to talk? And then the person realizes in 2 seconds they're dealing with a bot and then they just abandon it right away. Because hey, let's face it, even you yourself don't like talking to bots. You can't tell me you like going to the bank and talking to a bot. Yes, you're right. So why the hell are you making people talk to a bot on your website? People are major hypocrites when it comes to marketing. What they want themselves, they don't want to do for their customers. And that's not very smart because that's not where the money is. Live chat wise, you can use automation like you're going to do with this texting system I'm going to tell you about here in a second. In that, when somebody reaches your page, you know, ultimately, even with the live chat, like what product they're interested in, what service they're interested in by the page they visited. And you could literally say, hey, I know you're looking at these brown panties. I'm a brown panty expert. What do you plan on using these brown panties for? And you'll leave an open-ended question like that for the user, and it'll make them think that you're a real human, which is the first battle, because most people think you're a bot nowadays because everybody's trying to cut corners using bots instead of a real person to respond to people. And secondly, it makes people think, hey, I actually have questions about brown panties here. I'm going to ask a question and, I'm going to be able to get something done here because most other sites don't have a salesperson that's knowledgeable or a brown panty specialist, if you will. And with that, we've got sites where we'll get a 5% chat engagement rate because we know what the hell we're doing with that and how humans operate and what it actually takes to get people chatting. And in person, if you were selling a car, what do? Well, they don't say, hey, if you need anything, let me know, because that's salaried employee would do that. They say, wow, that Corvette you're looking at, boy, does that thing move. And it gets the person wanting to chat. It's the same thing there as this, or with the live chat. But as it ties into texting a person who visits your site, the same principles apply. For that matter, though, what you do is you reach out to somebody who visits your site and you use what you do know about them already to get them to respond to the text. Once they start responding to any kind of texting that you sent them, game over. As long as it's a good salesperson, you can make the sale then. You're just doing anything you can to get them to reply to that first text, just like you would do with the live chat that I mentioned before. So had a tax debt relief service, like if you owe money to the IRS, there's services out there that'll help you negotiate with the IRS to pay less or settle it. And they're called tax debt relief firms. So what we would do, like you would do here, if you want to just have the cookie cutter version of this, then you're going to say, I was passed your information here. How much tax debt do you actually owe? It makes the person think, oh, well, this is somebody that I contacted already. It's brilliant. This is my idea, by the way. And it gets people then to say, oh, I contacted them, I better respond. Whereas you didn't lie. You were passed their information. It was just by the audience labs. And then they respond. And then, of course you have to be a good salesman to close that. You can't just be a bonehead. Some bonehead responds to their reply, but you get the general gist of how this works. Now, how this physically on a physical layer works and how the process works of how you get that text out to somebody who's visited your website and, a minute later after you visited their website, they get this text, which you normally would want to respond to the person who visited your website within 15 minutes, because if you know anything about contact form reply stats, 2/3 of people will not respond to a form lead if you don't respond to them within the first 15 minutes. Basically speaking, it varies a little market to market, but it's really that bad. Okay, so you're basically just not, in a lot of markets, not making money if you can't do that. All the big firms have it to where when you fill out a form, it immediately calls the call center, and the call center is immediately put in contact with the user within 60 seconds. Go to any big mortgage website, it's going to be operating this way because that's where the money is. So with this, the quicker the better. However, you can't be so quick that it looks automated or artificial, because then red flags are going to be thrown out for them and they're not going to respond to the text. It's the same thing, by the way, with the live chat strategy we have, where the live chat thing that says, hey, I'm a brown penny expert, like I talked about before, that is not going to pop up for the user until a minimum time frame has elapsed for the user being on the website. So we usually use around 8 seconds from them hitting the site, which is not so long that we're going to get most people to bounce from the page before the thing pops up, but also not so short that it looks like a bot's communicating with them. Because as soon as they think it's a bot, particularly with live chat, the game, everything's off. What happens is the person visits your website. And by the way, if you want somebody to set this up for you, I can do it for you. Just reach out to my firm at guaranteedppc.com and be happy to do it. If we've worked in your niche market before, we can tell you the results we got with it or other ads that we've ran in your market. And if you're interested, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your niche market. We've worked in over 100 different niche markets in the last decade plus of running this advertising firm now. So the chances are high we've already got the results you're looking for. And as long as we aren't working in the market that you're in geographically, you can use it for your own company and get all the results that we've built up over years for that market, like that, overnight, practically speaking. And we got people that start businesses up just from using the templates that we have, because the templates are that dialed in. But with that said, if you want to do this yourself, what you're going to end up doing is this audience labs is placed on your site. Then data is collected about the user. Then with their backend algorithm and data that they pull from other third parties themselves, IP address databases, so on and so forth, they actually then identify the user, and then they send you their phone number, which you can get that information directly from them in their web portal, or you can have them, by working with them, send that data to a third party texting service. Would recommend Twilio. Twilio being a service where you can text message from any number to any number. And so ultimately and then with Twilio, what you have is something that you can set up with a time delay. Hey, after 60 seconds of someone visiting the site, I want a message to be sent out to this user, which was sent from the audience labs, and I want it to say this message here. You can actually set up your flows however you want. You can have at 1 minute, one message is sent out. At 15 minutes, a second message is sent out. After a day, a third message is sent out. You could do a whole drip sequence if you want. I typically don't get into that. However, if I did want the most results and I had the time to do it, I would do it that way, because it's just like an email follow-up to a contact form. The more times you follow up, the higher the chance you're going to have to be able to get in contact with that user. Most people give up after 1 or 2 responses to a form lead. And I can tell you this, the data shows that the average amount of responses to a form lead it takes to get a reply is 7 times. So the more times you text them, the more likely it is they're going to reply. And just keep the general golden rule in mind, which is don't look like a bot, and real humans would do follow-up. Bots normally wouldn't, which doesn't really make sense why people would believe that, but that's the case. When you reach out to them and you say, your information was passed to me, then the second text is, hey, I just want to make sure you got my message, which is the type of stuff that we like to do through email drip sequences all the time. Hey, I just thought I would give one more chance to blah, 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 and make each response actually be built upon the previous response, which is what a real human would do that's doing real follow-up. And each one that's sent out will increase the likelihood you get a response from the user. The highest response you'll get will be on the first one. But then the second one, if you got, let's say, a 10% response on the first text / SMS message you send them, then the second one you'll get more like 2%. And then the third one, you'll get like 1%. And then the fourth one, you'll get like 0.5%. When you add up all the follow-ups, you'll double the amount of leads that you get, responses you get overall, doing a 7 text message sequence versus just the 1 text message by itself. That's just how it works. Any follow-up, whether it be by phone, text message, email, it's all going to run on those same numbers, because each time they get it, there's some people that ultimately saw the last one and are not likely to reply because they saw it. There's some people who don't remember the first response they got, and they're going to be able to respond because they didn't see the first one, or they were busy at the time when they saw the first one, or whatever, which is why you do sales follow-up in the first place. Boneheads think, hey, I'm not going to follow up a lead because if they were interested, they would let me know. When the reality is, a lot of times they're busy when they initially reach out. Not only do they do research on your site before they even decide to respond, but when they respond, when you reach out to them, they could be washing the dishes or at a baseball game, whatever. You got to follow up if you're going to get good returns from leads on ads that you're running. So anyway, you get the general gist of what I was saying here. Tax debt service that we had, now getting into the results. If you, by the way, like the information I'm giving you here and you want a lot of other techniques like this channel's chock full of them. And so I recommend you subscribe to this channel if you want to really be able to get rich running ads for your business. I talk about not only how to run ads, but what you need to do to support it, using stuff like this and squeeze out the maximum value out of your ad spend possible. And it's coming from somebody who spends 40 hours a week, literally, doing ad strategy at our firm for dozens of clients. Other YouTubers and people that write articles online about running ads and being successful with ads, they don't actually run any ads. They're just trying to sell you a course or a book or make money off of advertising revenue, AdSense. They're not really in there doing it. I am, and I spend my weekends sharing what I find out what works during my normal 40-hour-a-week day job. And then along with that, you should check out my blog. If you like the channel, you're going to like my blog even more. The blog itself has step-by-step instructions on how to do the strategies we use for clients to guarantee their results. With that said, you can find the screenshots on how to do these things more so like step by step. And it's actually more in detail than what I have here on this channel. So if you like the channel, you should check that out as well. But the tax debt service here that we had, that we used / pioneered the strategy once we found out this service works and that we could actually do it. The script started out with, I was passed your name and wanted to see if I can get you a little bit better deal on your tax debt. What do you owe? And that just sounds like a question that a real human would ask. The more human it looks, the more likely they're going to be to respond to your text. And that goes for email responses. It would be the same way. Live chat, whatever you're doing, like I mentioned. With that said, what do you think the results were now on that text message that was sent out to not everybody who hits the site, but the 30% of users who hit the site that we can identify who it is so we can actually text them? 1 in 47 approximately users would reply to the text message, to the text messages itself. So not 1 in 47 site visitors, but 1 in 47 of the text messages, we would get a reply. That may not seem like that many. Every 150 visitors to the site, we got an extra lead. When we're talking about only getting a 7% conversion rate, we're talking about getting an 8-9% conversion rate, just adding this one thing to our overall strategy. So we're talking about another 15% more profit from our campaign just by having this installed. And once it's there, it's there. It doesn't cost any to maintain it. It'll run for years in the background. I know we could get this up more if we would have did a more robust follow-up strategy where we did a series of 7 follow-ups. This is not our core business here to set up these drip sequences, but I know if I did this right and over the next 90 days, I would send another 15 automated follow-ups with a really good follow-up drip sequence, this wouldn't be no 1 in 47. This would have been like more in 1 in 20 altogether. And so now we're talking about, instead of a 7% conversion rate, we're getting a 11, 12% conversion rate on the traffic we're getting to our website when we add in the additional responses we're getting by texting everybody up to 15 times. Even an extra 15% leads, when you're making 50 grand a month from your ads already, it's an extra 8 grand a month in profit already, of which there's no additional marketing cost to it, if you will. It's all profit, because this doesn't cost very much to maintain. You know, the amount of visitors you have to your site is going to dictate how much this costs. If you're talking about a site with not very many visitors, you're talking about less than a few grand a year to operate this. So yes, it does have some cost mainly with the V audience labs, because Twilio doesn't cost almost anything at all. You're paying like a penny or two per text message. So that's basically nothing. And if you find a different service out there, maybe you can actually get it much cheaper, if you will. So maybe there's some open source software out there that can use it. I don't know. But you know, naturally, if you're doing any more than 10 grand a month in revenue off of your ad campaign now, you'd be silly not to do this, because it's already going to be offset already. If you're doing a couple grand a month in revenue, maybe you focus on something else and use some of the other strategies on this channel to get you up past that mark. But once you have, you absolutely would want to do that. There are some markets where it would be a little bit weird or creepy to be able to do it. You know, naturally, if you were selling penis enlargement pills, I wouldn't probably do it. You know, a market where you're supposed to seem exclusive, like for our own firm, I wouldn't do it, because, you know, ultimately I don't want to look like we're too desperate here, and we're not. But even if I did need the business, I wouldn't do it. Like, let's say this is 8 years ago when we were a much newer firm, I wouldn't have done it back then, because it doesn't put you in the right position. A client's got to know you don't need their business in order to want to hire you in the advertising space. So I wouldn't do it. But for the most part, if you're talking about a mainstream product or service, I'm absolutely doing it for any site that I have, and try to get, at least when I'm doing lead generation, or people would want to talk to us before buying. That is, you're selling a product that's at least $100, and usually there's some sort of question, you know, to your sales staff involved before they buy for products. Because you can use the text message to get a conversation going and give, you know, and as you probably already know, and if you run a company like that, the more conversations that get going, the more you're going to sell, bottom line. Because people don't just talk about buying for fun and games. I mean, in some cases they will, but most of the time that's not the case. You just got to get them to call, like I talk about all the time on this channel. If you can get more people to call you when they hit your site, you're going to make more money. So what can you do to get them to call you more? Well, you put the number in more places, you put your hours next to the phone number, that kind of thing. So this is the same kind of thing overall. You get them to respond, you get a conversation going, and then that increases the likelihood of the sale. We do the same thing, you know, we run campaigns all the time to promote ebooks. We get the person to download the ebook, and then as soon as they download the ebook, we call them up and get a conversation going, knowing that for every 10 conversations we get going, we're going to make a sale. And that's a highly effective model we use time and time again, but it's all predicated around the same thing. Get the conversation going. It makes the user sticky on the website, and the longer they stay there, the more likely they're going to do business with us if they're going to be doing business with somebody in our market. With that said, ultimately, as I mentioned before, if you want somebody that can really guide you through this process, that really knows it, knows how to write good copy, sequences, stuff like that, it's not our main business, but I can guide you on everything you need to know, and more importantly, get your ads to coincide with it so they all work together as a cohesive piece. Reach out to me if you're interested in that. We do coaching. I've been doing and starting to offer 30-minute coaching sessions with people who have been watching this channel as a way to help users, not with their ads, but you know, that too, but the stuff that you need to make your ads work, help you guys focus on what you need to focus on. Because a lot of you guys beat your head against the wall trying to get your ads to work when really you have a bigger issue. The website's not set up right. Your follow-up sequence on the leads you're getting isn't right. And if you fix that, your ads would just start scaling and profitably again on their own. But without fixing that hole, you're going to keep spinning your tires. So, and every single person has been reaching out to me for help trying to unbottleneck their sales or their campaign progress has came back for other coaching calls, because I got 20 years of experience working with small business owners, and I've solved the problems that occur, and I know how to spot these problems, these bottlenecks. So you can also reach out to me and we could talk it over on a 30-minute call, how to get this set up for you as well. But with that said, that pretty much spells out what the system is, how you would actually do it. If you're talking about a product instead of a service, the text message that you send, instead of, hey, I was passed your name, you could say something like, I was told that you were in market for a fishing speedboat. And I would go more so that angle with it. So there's just some tweaks to this that would, vary market to market. But for the most part, like I mentioned before, it's going to be you asking an open-ended question. You first state your purpose, why you're there. And then it's, what do you plan on using the speedboat for? Question mark. People want to talk about their situation. See, the open-ended question gives them an open invitation to dump all their problems on your lap. And then you take that and you run with it. And you just have a conversation with them. And after you've talked to them for like 5 minutes already, you've built enough rapport with them to give them a hard sell. Hey, if you're going to buy something, this is the one you want to buy, and we have the best price on it. And maybe they won't buy it then, but you can follow them up in 2 weeks and close them then, depending on the price of the product you're dealing with. But anyway, that's the general gist of this and what I was trying to convey on today's video. This is a new thing. I haven't seen it written around too long, which is why I don't have too many other case studies to give you. But we're going to start using this all the time. Certainly, I'm going to start telling all my clients about it. And mainly because I want them to be successful with their ads, because that's what we do. And anything else they do to support our efforts is going to make our relationship better. But with that said, I'm going to wrap everything up with that. Thank you very much for watching this video, as usual, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said fill out the form was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.